Well, happy Wednesday. Happy Pink Wednesday. What's with the face, Kenny?
Um, so no one told me that we were doing pink today, and I guess I probably shouldn't have had to have been told, given that I try to wear pink on most days. But
Um,
today I'm in lovely lavender.
Okay. Well, good for the lavender. Let me ask a question. So we're all moms here, and have you ever heard of the pregnancy pause?
Not in the way that it is constructed today. I have not. So it's interesting when Gigi brought this to my attention because it's something we talk about all the time. We talk about the impact of pregnancy on women and, vis-a-vis the impact of fatherhood on men, which is different, and how women are in a different situation because we're the care provider, we are the incubator in most cases, and just dealing with that, how that creates inequality in the way that we are perceived at work. So we've had these conversations, but just didn't put it in the context of pregnancy pause. So it was very interesting that this even exists.
so I had a moment when you said that because you said, we're all moms here. And that's the first time you said that. And so I just had a moment. I just had a moment. So I just need to had a
Oh,
moment. I got a little teary eyed. Let me have my moment. So again, so back to pregnancy pause, or the pause in general. I mean, when you think about pregnancy pause, you know, um, I never actually thought about it in the context of pregnancy, right? You say a pregnant pause, so it's this loaded waiting pause, but had never really made the literal translation. But when you think about now in this context of this pause that you take in your life because you went through this maternal journey and how there are ramifications to it, positive or negative, hadn't thought about it in that context using, this terminology. So, yeah.
Wait, there's such a thing as positive ramifications.
I think so. I'm gonna
Okay.
make it so.
Okay. Hey, you like it? I love it.
Daddy,
You
are
like
there
it? I
such a
love it.
thing?
You like it? I love it. No. So you know, in essence, the pregnancy pause, not to be kind of mixed with the pregnant pause, but the pregnancy pause is 100% about how being a mom belongs on your resume. And I've seen that once. I could not remember the person, but in their experience, they put was being a mom, and the description. I need to find it. In the description, it was, she described, with if you took off mom, she described a HR role, senior role. She
Mhm.
described the operating officer role. She described the head of finance role. She described the chief transportation officer role. She described the queen of hacking, otherwise known as a chief innovation
Mhm.
officer role, and also a CEO role. And so for me, this conversation around the pregnancy pause, and absolutely it should belong on your resume. It's actually the longest job I've ever held. I just need a minute for that. The
See?
longest job I've ever held. And often, in my day job, I'm looking at resumes and LinkedIn all day. And it's always when you talk to the person, you find out the things that don't live on LinkedIn, definitely don't come.
mhm. In between the lines.
But there's nothing, and I will to me, there's nothing that supplants lived experience.
Well, even when you say that, you talk about
Yep.
transferable skills, right? Why is that the only transferable skill that's not acceptable?
I say that it is. I say that we have the power to make it acceptable. I think we have to have the courage to speak up and say that it is something that matters. And as long as we do that, we can use it and all the power that comes with it to help other people understand that there are definite transferable skills from your pause to your coming back into the workplace. I think part of the challenge that I see is that we always look at pausing as a negative thing, and pauses are not always negative. I think, we, for instance, you need to take a mental pause just to be able to replenish and restore. And, you know, shout out to it being World Mental Health Day today. But if you think about the type of pause that comes with just being able to make sure that you are a healthy individual, both from a physical and mental perspective, that's a great pause in your life. And pregnancy, I think, is an opportunity to also have a great pause. It's what you do with the dash, right? Is what really matters.
Yeah. So I think when we were talking about this, one of the things that I was thinking about is the pregnancy pause is intended that when you are taking that maternity leave, how do you justify that on your resume? Because people don't like gaps in experience, and definitely I would say fill that gap. But okay, so you're no longer pregnant. The kids have released themselves and are out in the universe. And okay, so now what about those pauses that might happen in terms of, I guess, mom pause, right? Where there's a life change, might need to spend time at home. And we are unapologetic about women on this show. We do love our fathers as well. So you can cross out fathers. I know so many fathers that just are the primary caregiver in their kids' roles, but that's not for this show today. But I think once there are times that those circumstances happen, and so what about a pause when kids are older? Does that change your thinking?
So I want to share a fact, right? And because I think it goes to,
Far be it to bring facts into this conversation.
I mean, I'm just saying. But statistics out there that says moms are 50% less likely to land a job interview than women who've been laid off. So when you're talking about that pause, right, and it just goes to exactly what you're talking about right now, there is nothing, no descriptor that you can use in there to say, I'm taking a pause to have a baby. I'm taking a pause to be a caregiver. I'm taking a pause. It doesn't show up, right? How do you in the professional world that we all live in, right? How do you capture that? What does that look like? And how do you make it so it doesn't feel like you're making an excuse?
Yeah. I just needed to. I think that's a phenomenal factoid. That 50% less likely to land a job than someone who's been laid off. It seems a bit of there's a word that's coming to mind, and no, it's not the right word. I'm going to say it and clean it up. It's a different type of shaming and blaming. One might have been done to you. One you might have done to children. It just is not a wow.
Well, I mean, I think it also goes back to the culture of the environments that we've been operating in for so long, right? So, I'm not shy about saying that corporations were not set up for us. And by us, I mean women in general. And forget the fact of talking about intersectionality between women and race and all the rest of that stuff, right? So just women in general. I remember having a conversation with someone that I was going to report to who asked me about my family planning. I'm sorry, sir, that's not your business, right? And it's because there's this culture, this toxic culture of, if you're a mom, you can't also be a leader. You can't also be an executive. You can't also be the CFO. You can't also, because you have this set of responsibilities that is always going to take priority over the work. And while the set of priorities are definitely rightly aligned when your family is first, those priorities are the same, hopefully, for men who are the husbands and fathers to these children too. But because of this toxicity in the culture, they often don't get this label or this cloud over them about taking time to care for your family. And so because women get dinged with this, it makes total sense to me that coming back from being laid off, where someone has done something and there's a result that means that you have a gap, versus you choosing to be a mom created a gap. It makes total sense to me that it's going to be harder for you to come back into the workforce, because the workforce was not set up for you to make your family a priority.
As I'll since it was the first time I said it allegedly, I'll say it again. So, as the newest member of the Mom Club, EJ, as you were coming back into work, what how did you feel about? How did you feel in terms of being embraced, supported, or did you?
So, great question. Going back to statistics again, when you think of the U.S. and the only first world nation that really does not account for maternity leave, right? And I say that intentionally because work for organizations that have, maternity policies, but I was call it personal pressure, financial pressure, what have you, to come back to work quickly.
Yeah.
So it was 10 weeks and I was back.
10 weeks, 2 babies.
2 babies, 10 weeks, and I was back. I'm not even sure I made it to 10 weeks. So, and there was definitely, be it, self pressure or otherwise, where I was very intentional about choices I made, settings where I would or would not speak about my children, speak about what have you, because there were several situations where it was expected, oh God, all she's going to do is now talk about her kids. Right. But it was very, so I was very, very conscious of when and where, I would just, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm trying to love motherhood, but, and make it very light. But let me pull out the 900 pictures that I have on my phone from yesterday. That was, I have them, but that's not what I led with in many situations.
Which then it underscores the point that Kennedy was raising of our workforce environments, just in general, were not set up for this. And I think just because, there are many organizations that have, well, I don't know if they do anymore with COVID, but post-pandemic, that have on-site daycare, that have gone beyond in absence of a national maternity coverage, have gone above and beyond. But I find it very interesting, Kennedy, because as you were talking about the question you were asked about family planning, I was playing that in my mind of the people that I've worked for in the past asking the same question. And my response was like, oh, how wonderful for you to ask me that. But I've been 1,000,000% blessed in the people that I work for, have not had those types of situations. So folks that are very thoughtful about that environment and knowing how that will could impact me mentally, right? And if your kids aren't okay, and you're having to worry about different types of things, but more so not at work, but more so who I was as a human. So I think it's just fascinating. It's something that from, as early on, I think it was you, Kenny, that also stated that, as we think about when we move into our do something component, where I think there are things we can do to begin to make it okay to have this pause. And one is to embrace it. I am going to go back on my LinkedIn. I'm going to find a way to squeeze it in my already too long resume. Remember the days like if your resume is too long, only doctors should have resumes too long. I think that's out the window. And put it in there, because there's so many transferable skills. And so any pauses, now for me, between the two kids, my maternity leave was about a total of 4 weeks. I was called by the president of two separate companies, and who basically, the president of the company that said, hey, I can't call you right now. I'm not supposed to be talking to you right now, but I will pay you an extra amount. It was not a small amount to come back early. And I was like, get these kids. I love my baby. But I also had a phenomenal care situation, a phenomenal care situation. Would have been possible without that. But to that point, so I don't have a pause, but I have the resume of being a mom is, of having to navigate and juggle. And we need to embrace that, not apologize for it, not be fearful of talking about it,
Right.
But definitely 100% embrace that pause.
I want to add to that, because as the resident mom on the panel today, who had preterm labor from the 5th month of pregnancy, spent 3 months in a hospital with a very high risk situation and almost did not survive it, my pause began way before birth happened. And so there's an even greater gap to explain. But I will say that I learned more about healthcare going through that experience than I've learned in the 2 master's programs that were supposed to teach me about it. So I just feel like, number one, yes, embrace the pause, but sometimes the pause is hard on you. And we need for organizations to support women in a way that they don't have to be thinking or worrying about what's happening at work when they are trying to make sure that they survive. That is like, so if we're going to embrace the pause, we need for corporate responsibility to take place and for them to embrace the pause with us.
We're going to get there.
Let's get there.
So yeah, another do something is be a proud unpauser. That this topic literally has given voice to what was already part of my mindset and heart set. And being a mom should absolutely, and I do this in my day job, being a mom, being a dad should be on your resume, period.
I think
comma, go ahead, AJ.
I think 100%. And then what's the story behind it? How do you tell the story behind it? I'm not asking you to tell me now, but I think that's when you talk about, it can't just be a flippant, ooh, I'm a mom.
Oh, no.
More, right?
No.
But I think it's so powerful. And when you talk about being an unpauser, you also have the ability to be an unpauser for someone else.
Yeah.
So, whereas when I went out for my maternity leave, before that, I was in conversations about a promotion. And I was nervous to tell the person I was in conversation with that, I'm about to go out, right? We're having these conversations and you're talking about the sense of urgency around this, and I'm about to be out. And literally in the conversation, I said, okay, put on your big girl panties. And I told them, and it was a man. And I said, just want to let you know, I'm about to go out on maternity leave. You could hide a whole lot of things when COVID was happening because people only saw you from the neck up, right? But when I say support and be the person who's triggering the unpause, because without missing a beat, that individual said to me, "That's fantastic. You'll have more to add to the conversation when you get back."
That's awesome.
Right?
That's awesome.
That's how you're a proud unpauser.
That's because it was safe for you to
100%.
And I just think of the folks that I have interviewed over the years, when I was hiring folks, and I remember this Christine Bill Dunce. I love her. I remember I went after her when I was at Kaiser Permanente. Went after her with a vengeance. I was like, I need you on my team, and we'll figure out what. And she said, well, I should probably tell you that I'm pregnant, which that whole conversation, right, that you're saying is not always comfortable. And I said, I will wait. And then, oddly enough, I mean, I went through the pregnancy. She was pregnant. So then she went through the pregnancy. She had to finish up the project, had the baby, and took, I think, like a full 4 or 6 months. The day she was supposed to come back, she was walking, and you appreciate this as moms, your brain is not at full capacity. She was walking down a set of stairs and broke her femur in 2 places. And so, yeah, then she was out for like another few months. And I say all that to say that, and this gets to what you're talking about, for those that have the power or in the position to hire a pauser, do so.
Do it.
Do so. And it is the most important and most expensive decision you will make as a boss. I'm not talking about acquiring a company for however many millions. I'm not talking about opening up a new. The most expensive decision you will make, monetarily and otherwise, is who you hire. The investment that you make in that person is everything. And you want someone to want to get into your organization. If that's someone, if you want a Christine Bill Dunce, if you want an EJ, if you want a Kennedy, if you want a Rob in your organization, I'm not available. But if you want in your organization, that is such an important characteristic of someone who's gone through being a mom. And whether the pregnancy was directly attached to you or it's through a surrogate, it matters not. At the end of the day, the skill sets, the flexibility, I mean, I'm advising people all the time, you need to hire. You're not going to interview with someone, we're not going to bring someone to you who can't do the job. They had the experience, they ran or whatever, they've done this, whatever. But what you hire for is agility, flexibility, the collaboration. I was trying to find a word that ended with the itty.
Innovation.
Itty.
Innovation, itty. Go ahead.
Personality to me. I'm just kidding. No, so you hire for those things, and I don't know a mom who's not agile. I don't know a mom who's not flexible, because your kids are the best teachers and testers of that. The question of, talk about time when you've had to deal with conflict. You had to, and no one ended up in jail, or fired, those types of things. So I think hiring a pauser is an asset and the best investment you can make in any organization. Is that a period or is that a comma?
No, that's a period.
That's a period. It's actually an exclamation point.
Yes. I feel like we need to flash this again. I'm still stuck on moms are 50% less likely to land a job than those who have been laid off. And that is, I think, abysmal. And I hope at the end of this that people are moms, dads, and hirers of moms and dads are reimagining, rethinking, doing a mindset shift of what it means to have that gap in the resume, or maybe it's not even a gap; it's a job title that needs to be added to anyone's LinkedIn or resume. Absolutely, for sure.
I think 100% with that though is everybody just take a moment to pause. And that pause can mean a lot of different things in a lot of different situations. And we're talking about it specifically now around this, you know, the maternity pause. Kennedy, you talked about it being Mental Health Day and taking that sort of pause. You know, I'm thinking about, as we're thinking about moms, and we started the topic about, you know, maternity and maternal mortality and any other sort of things, I have to take a pause and just, you know, have a moment for Polka, because I just, you know, as we're thinking about all of those things and in life changes and life shifts, the importance of just stopping, taking that pause, taking that breath, considering, and then moving forward. And there's just something about, and that is going to be in me. I need to find a song. Well, Robin, why didn't you find me a song that had pause in it? Where's the pause song today?
All I got is the men pause. The men all pause
When I walk, you know, that kind of works. That works though. That works though.
Okay.
The men all pause when I walk into the room. The people are, anyhow, but there is something about the pause, and at the end and take it, embrace it, do it, live it, be it, and that's transferable to anything.
100%.
And shout out to the women who figured this pregnancy pause thing out and are actively marketing this to their advantage. Anna Rosenman, I think is how you say her name, Rosenman maybe, was a senior vice president of marketing and commerce at Salesforce. Huge role. I'm sure she's a phenomenal leader. And she did that for a number of years, about 7 years working in that field at that level in the C-suite. And then says in August of 2023, she is a mom, wife, a budget interior designer, and meal planner. Those are her transferable skills in her new role as a mommy. So kudos and hats off to, I'll say crowns off, to all you queens who have figured out how this pregnancy pause thing works. And good for you. We got a lot to learn.
And with that, you know what we do. Roll that beautiful bean footage.